Hello and welcome back to the Concept Checkup. The point of Concept Checkup is to dive into the Warframe forums, look for a community-made Warframe concept, and talk about it. For the purpose of Concept Checkup, I will use my custom-built evaluating method known as AS. Without further ado, let's begin the checkup. For today's checkup we have Omen, the Soul Devourer Warframe. Omen was created by Evil on Swiftwings on the Warframe forums, and is designed to be a glass cannon Warframe. Omen has below average shields, above average health, below average armor, average energy capacity, and an average sprint speed. Omen has an unnamed passive. Upon death, Omen transforms into his exalted form and goes on a rampage, becoming barely responsive to player controls but dealing massive damage in exchange. If Omen can successfully kill 5 enemies before time runs short, he will be revived. I get that the idea is to give Omen a last stand kind of passive, but this interpretation of it isn't good. Assuming that Omen doesn't have health when on a rampage, that means that Omen gets rewarded with his exalted form and a temporary damage buff just for dying. In high-level areas where just a single enemy can start to deal ludicrous amounts of damage, killing 5 enemies to revive yourself will be nigh impossible given that Omen becomes difficult to move around when in his passive form. Also, assuming that Omen's passive has no cooldown, which in and of itself would be ridiculously strong for a passive, Omen's passive would be more annoying than useful, because that would force Omen to rely on crowds of enemies to make full use of his passive. Even if crowds of enemies are plentiful, going into passive form over and over just serves as a get-out-of-jail-free card for Omen. Even more on top of that, Omen's exalted form drains 1.5 health per second and grants health per kill. Omen's first ability is Spectral Lash. Omen slashes in a wide arc, hitting multiple enemies. If used alongside his 4, Omen drags a single enemy into melee range. Well, Spectral Lash is a basic damage ability, similar to Gera's first ability. Nothing much to say here, especially with a lack of stats. Omen's second ability is Haunting Essence. Upon activation, Omen summons 3 ghostly wolves to fight alongside him for a static duration of 30 seconds. Again, it's difficult to judge this ability given the lack of numbers behind it. However, the potency of this ability relies entirely on just that, the stats. Given that the wolves are duration-based, it can be assumed that the wolves do not possess health, meaning that Haunting Essence wouldn't fall off in the late game. Secondly, if the wolves behave similar to Cavots or Kubrals, they can also serve as a way to draw aggro away from Omen, which would be incredibly useful given the lack of health. Finally, if the wolves deal damage of their own or inherit melee mods from Omen, their overall effectiveness could be high or absurdly high, depending on which is the case. Omen's third ability is Disembodiment. Omen pulls the soul out of a target enemy, forcing it to fight alongside Omen for 30 seconds. If the soul dies or runs out of time, it heals Omen for a percentage of the damage it has dealt. If Disembodiment is used in conjunction with Omen's fourth ability, he can instead absorb a targeted enemy's soul to heal himself. If Disembodiment can be cast on multiple enemies, this ability could very easily be exploited. A player could very easily reduce the number of active enemies on the field with a simple usage of Disembodiment, with the added bonus of a free heal just by allowing an enemy affected by Disembodiment to die. If Disembodiment can be cast on only a single enemy, then Disembodiment is basically just a better version of Nyx's mind control, with a free heal tacked on at the end. Omen's fourth ability is Awakening. Omen transforms into his exalted form, gaining access to a unique dual sword stance with built-in life steal at the cost of health drain per second. Reactivating Awakening roots nearby enemies for 2 seconds. Awakening is absurd. I don't know what else to say. Awakening is the first exalted ability I've seen that has a health drain per second rather than an energy drain per second, meaning that Omen can make use of Life Strike and Disembodiment to basically never die. This stacks upon the already built-in life steal that Omen possesses while in his exalted form, giving him less opportunities to die. On the circumstance that Omen is actually killed, he gets a free damage buff and second chance from his passive during the time he has to kill 5 enemies for a free revive. While Omen is, by design, a glass cannon, having life steal upon life steal upon life steal makes him less of a glass cannon and more of a glass vampire. Inaros already does the job of life stealing just fine, not to mention he can tank rather than DPS. Anyways, Here are Omen's scores. Omen might be a decent idea, but the thing is that Inaros does the job of Lifesteal better than basically every other Warframe, not to mention Inaros doesn't blow up easily in high-level areas. It just seems like Omen is a disadvantaged frame trying to compete with better ones we have now. For my personal thoughts, while I am personally not into the idea of yet another Lifesteal frame, I do think it would be significantly better if the passive were completely redone, the kit itself given some true stats behind each ability, and Omen's fourth ability being toned down a bit, especially given the lack of energy drain on an exalted ability. Thank you for watching.